Welcome everyone to Festival Focus. I'm Michelle Schumann. I'm the Artistic Director of Austin Chamber Music Center, and I'm very excited to have the members of Third Coast Percussion here with me. We're in their studio. Isn't this exciting, everyone? We get to be in their studio, see all the background and what makes things tick. So how about you guys introduce yourselves one at a time to our audience, and because I do little cheesy interviews here, when you introduce yourselves, tell me what's the coolest thing about being a percussionist, about being a professional percussionist.
I'm Robert Dillon, and the coolest thing about being a professional percussionist is owning more stuff than any other musician.
That's great.
I'm David Skidmore, and the coolest thing about being a percussionist is you don't ever have to worry about going to the gym because you spend so much time and energy lifting heavy objects and moving them from one concert to the next.
Yeah, you guys look like you're all in shape, so you obviously play a lot of concerts.
Okay, we have a filter on our camera.
Right, nice.
My name is Clay Condon. The coolest thing about percussions is being able to select instruments from throughout the world to play the music that we play, and a lot of times we get to kind of found instruments, which are instruments that would not normally maybe be used to make music, and that's something that we get to do.
Awesome, awesome.
Hi, my name is Peter Martin, and I would say the coolest thing about being a percussionist is traveling around with a rollerboard full of tin cans and conch shells and getting stopped by every single TSA agent, no matter where I am.
Awesome, that's great. You know, that reminded me a little bit, I play a lot of John Cage's music for prepared piano, and I always thought the coolest thing about playing prepared piano was going into Home Depot and looking for items to put into pianos and being stalked by the helpers there, by the workers there, wondering why I need these particular size of screws and nuts and bolts. So it's always entertaining. And you guys are playing Cage on your program. Of course, this is probably a big year. I mean, it is a big year for Cage. It's his 100th birthday. So are you guys playing a lot of Cage this year?
We are, yeah. We've just released a new album of John Cage's percussion music on Mode Records. And so as part of that album release, we're playing a lot of John Cage, either all John Cage concerts or concerts that highlight the music of John Cage, and including concert at MoMA in August, our CD release concert here in Chicago, which was a couple weeks ago, and then several festivals throughout the fall. But we've actually been playing Cage's music for basically since the group was founded, because he's such an important composer for our genre.
Yeah.
So it's a really exciting year for our ensemble because Cage is just someone who means so much to us anyway. So it's amazing that he's getting such great attention on the 100th anniversary of his birth.
Yeah, and the cool thing about Cage is, you know, a lot of people will be quick to kind of dismiss him because they feel like he was too much of a maverick, but I really think that he changed the way people listened to all kinds of music. And I think that's the most amazing thing about what he did. I mean, he really made us listen to music in a totally different way. And so, I mean, and his percussion music, I mean, it's totally accessible, too. It's not like the crazy far-out stuff where you don't know what to do anything with it. But I love, and the piece, you guys are doing the third construction, I think? I mean, it's one of the best. I mean, it's really fantastic.
And it's a piece that we played, you know, for kindergartners, and we've played it for very, you know, like chamber music series, and we've played it for really serious new music audiences, and it's just such a great piece, and it's so well written, and it works so well for percussion, and it's just it's sort of a hallmark piece for our ensemble.
Yeah, the third construction is kind of one of those pillars of percussion ensemble music. In our field, it's often referred to as the Beethoven 9 of percussion.
That's awesome. And everyone is really excited about your concert here. You know, people just love percussion ensemble concerts. I mean, there's nothing, I mean, there's everything to love about them. There's just so much going on. I always feel like it's this sort of like sonic delight for the ears, and it's great. And you guys are playing Cage, but you're also playing Reich, which is another, you know, quintessential composer for percussion. But I wanted to see if you guys could talk a little bit about the other pieces that you're doing, because two of you guys, Dave and Clay, you've both written pieces for the ensemble, and You can tell us about the piece, but also tell us what it's like writing for your own group and what kind of experience that is. Is it a collaborative experience? Is it a, like, write it all down and now do what I say? How does that work with you guys?
Yeah, so the piece I wrote, Fractalia, basically I wrote it kind of as a way to combine the keyboard instruments that we play. We have two marimbas that we kind of play kind of facing each other, and then we each get a set of drums to kind of play with it. And I kind of wanted to just find a way to combine those two sound worlds in one piece. A lot of the repertoire we write or have played in the ensemble kind of has the drums and keyboard separate a lot of the time, or just not kind of everybody playing them all at once, creating this kind of combined sound. When I wrote Fractalia, I kind of wrote it half at the marimba, kind of by myself, trying to see what was possible, and half at the computer. And what happens when you do that is that you find, that there's things that you think sound good, or there's, certain sonorities that you draw out of the instrument. But when you actually get into the room with these guys and, you kind of hear it kind of come alive, mm-hmm. you see what's really possible and, like, what works logistically and not. So there's definitely that kind of stepping stone in creating that sound. Mm-hmm. The piece is about 5 minutes long. It definitely is designed to create kind of a combined sound amongst the four players, where each of us kind of shares a small fragment of the melodies that kind of are intertwined with these kind of driving drum notes. Mm-hmm.
And do you write with individual players in mind? Because, obviously you guys are all awesome in your own right, but you probably all have something very special. And then when you put all those things together into the group, there's something even more special that happens. So what do you guys think are those special things about you, either individually or as a group? And I know it's a hard question to answer because you don't want to be like, well, I'm special because of this or that or the other. But I think as musicians, because we've been self-critical, I think we know those things that come naturally to us and that we have really great to offer to our audiences, and maybe those things that someone else might do better. Do you have any thoughts about that?
One thing that I feel like this ensemble does really well, it's something that I tried to take advantage of when I wrote a piece that's going to be played on the Austin Chamber Music Festival, is, especially when you think of percussion groups, you don't often think of phrases and phrasing and long melodic lines first. Right. Maybe you think of, really iterative drumming type stuff, like stuff. But something that that we all share, I think, is an interest in creating phrases on our instruments, mm-hmm. and it's very possible to do. It's just sort of a skill that one works on when it's important. To you, which it is very much for us. So, for instance, in my piece, there's a couple of movements that are much more lyrical than maybe many people are accustomed to hearing in percussion music, mm-hmm. And then on our program also stuff like Steve Reich music, which tends to be a little bit more of what people think about when they're thinking about just good old-fashioned rhythmic percussion music.
Yeah, I think that's when the most magical things can happen, is when we make our instruments not sound like our instruments at all, really. Because everyone has an idea in their head of what something should be, and it's when you kind of shatter those expectations in audiences that they really start to listen up and get kind of amazed by that. And for me, as a pianist, in some ways it's the same sort of challenges. Is like playing legato, playing a line when you really have a sort of an up and down instrument, trying to make it be horizontal. So I just love when I can hear that in a percussion concert too. And I love that you guys are from Chicago, because I got to tell you, most of the artists that I bring in are almost always from New York, right? Like that's the epicenter of where everything's happening. And there's so much great things happening. I mean, there are so many great things happening all over. You're laughing, but there's so many great things that are happening all over the country. Tell me a bit about the scene in Chicago and how you guys kind of fit into that, and how percussion fits into that.
I think it's it feels to us, I think, like it's a really special time in Chicago for new music groups and for startup groups. I think there's a lot of people who are around our age, relatively recently out of college, and sort of finding their own way and creating a group to play the music that they're interested in playing. And so there are a number of really spectacular new music groups in a number of different sort of niches. everyone from Eighth Blackbird, which is a very well-renowned chamber group, to more flexible instrumentation kind of ensembles like Ensemble Del Niente. CSO has a contemporary music series called Music Now that's sort of going in some new, interesting directions and exploring some different directions. So, I don't know, for us it feels like it's an exciting time. Like there's an audience that's developing here, and there's a community that supports what we do and is excited about it, and there's room for it to blossom here. It feels to me a lot of times like New York would be a very scary place to try to start your own ensemble and do something new and challenging, because there are so many great musicians there, so many interesting ensembles doing things there. In Chicago, it feels like, not that it's easy to start something up here, but I think there's a really supportive community, and I think there's room for it to develop here. It feels kind of like we're in the right place at the right time. Mm-hmm. Chicago is also just a great city. I think it's a place we all love living, and there's a warm atmosphere and cold weather. And the name, actually, the name of our ensemble, Third Coast, I think kind of comes from the idea a little bit. There are a number of things in Chicago called Third Coast, whatever it is, Third Coast International Audio Festival. There's a radio festival, and there's Third Coast cafes and all this other stuff. And it has to do with this idea that people generally tend to think of culture as being focused on the East Coast and the West Coast. But Chicago and the Midwest have our own thing going, and something really special that's developing right now.
Well, I think that's also a really great reason why I think it's cool that you guys are coming to Austin, because they call this area Third Coast as well, because we've got the Gulf Coast, so it's like the middle coast. And for those same reasons, it's sort of like standing your ground when people seem to polarize what's going on in the country, but knowing that really great things happen. And Austin's just going to love you guys. And Austin is very similar, I think, to Chicago in that way, in that I think we're a lot younger in our cultural scene, but also there's sort of a hunger for new music and for new creation here, and like cross-pollination between audiences and also between musicians. Lots of crossover between sort of rockers and classical folks, and so there's that's an exciting thing to be happening too. So I think it's just going to be great to have you guys. Have you guys been to Austin? Any of you guys been to Austin before?
Yeah,
all of you.
Played a couple times in Austin. Yeah, there's a lot of parallels between Chicago and Austin. I think both have a very much like a do-it-yourself sort of atmosphere and a really, really strong live music, culture in there. And Austin, like Chicago, I think has very much, sort of like a no-rules sort of environment when it comes to music and the arts, where anybody can do kind of anything. And there's an audience built in for that. So it's exciting for us to be down in Austin.
Yeah, well, we can't wait to have you guys, and it'll be hot. I'm just warning you. It's going to be a scorcher, so I hope you're prepared for that. But you have heat in Chicago, too, and humidity, right?
For about 1 month in Chicago, it gets hot. And it gets really hot. Other than that,
So you won't be shocked by the Texas weather. Well, anyway, we're looking really forward to seeing you guys. Thanks for making the trek out, and it's just going to be a blast. So great to talk to you guys, and glad that our audience can get to know you before you hit town.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, take it easy. We'll see you later.
See you soon.
See you soon.
Yeah, bye-bye.